Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yeah.
It's good to see all these smiling faces. The sunshine does make a difference, doesn't it? Before we get started this morning, I'd like to welcome Jim Goss,
Morning.
Champaign County, and also Geraldo Rosales.
Good morning.
He's back here. Okay. They'll be joining us, of course. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and if we could do a roll call, please.
Yes. Charles Smith,
Here.
Richard Hilton,
Here.
Katina Wilcher. Here. Anna Olgeen, Tammy Ferling Bogus. Here. Stephen Summers.
Here.
Geraldo Rosales.
Here.
Jim Goss.
Here.
Diane Marlin. Here. Dennis Roberts. Deb Frank Finan. Patricia Avery. Present. Patrick Brown.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Very good. First of all, I need a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Is there any audience participation? There being none. I will bring you up to date about that. We had audience participation in our last meeting, and so since that time, the RPC has met. We've established guidelines for that, so each speaker will be given 5 minutes, and we'll have at least a minimum or maximum of 20 minutes. So there'll be 4 presentations that could be given in that period of time. Okay, the next one is the minutes. RPC draft minute meetings from January the 25th. It was attachment page 1. I hope everyone's had time to read it.
I do.
You have a question?
Yes.
I just have a question about the established rules for audience participation.
Certainly.
In terms of 20 minutes allowed only. How did we come to that conclusion?
Pizza?
So my understanding is the county's guidelines is that it's 5 minutes per person with a maximum of an hour. And given that we meet early in the morning, we felt that 20 minutes would be compromised than, having a full hour of audience participation.
Okay, so I suppose is that, I guess we can set the rules like that, but just know that I have some concerns about that, and that doesn't reflect that. I'd like to allow as much time for, even though we don't have it usually, I'd like to reflect that we have a little more time for audience participation beyond 20 minutes. So if it comes to a time where we have an issue that the public is really concerned about, and we only limit it to 4 individuals speaking, I'm hoping that we will relax the rules.
Sure.
And allow for more public participation and not just be firm and cut it off with 4 people. So I have reservations about cycling public participation to only 20 minutes. So I want that reflected.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Ms. Dooley. Noted. Thank you. All right. Again, the RPC draft minutes from January the 25th. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, motion carries. Item 5 is the consolidated financial report, and to be given by Betty Murphy. Betty?
Sure. So the overall fund balance continues to remain healthy as of the end of January 2019 at just over $11 million. Our receivables totaled about $595,000, which is typical for the level of reimbursements that we request on every 30-day cycle. So nothing unusual there.
Okay, all right, very good. Is there a motion to accept and place on file the consolidated financial report?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 is the list of the bills, and that is presented by Benny Murphy also.
Sure, so you have the list of bills here. The volume is fairly extensive, but I think that's reflective of the fact that there are lots of transfer payments for emergency shelter and utilities, workforce development training. We have lots of participants involved in workforce training, so those are transfer payments, and also direct training and supportive services. So there's nothing unusual to point out on the list of bills.
Do I hear a motion to accept and place on file the list of bills for January 2019?
So moved.
All right, second. Thank you, Steve. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor?
I had a question.
Oh, yes, Diane.
Related to the emergency shelter, just curious, do we have contracts with these particular landlords, or how does?
Yeah, we make direct payments to landlords, so we'll support someone for some transitional
Yeah.
housing until they are able to, meet
Sure,
those
yeah.
goals and, again, advance towards self-sufficiency. So these are very short-term payments with landlords. We have trouble getting landlords that agree to this process, but that helps us place clients in permanent housing.
So these folks have agreed to, how many apartments do they set aside, or is there a set number?
That's a great question. Lisa would be able to address that. We probably have 24 landlords that we work with generally, and they have been very accommodating over the years, so we've established a good payment relationship with them, so they're more apt to take our clients.
Are there any in Urbana?
Do you know?
I'll have to follow up with you.
Okay.
I'll check with Lisa.
Just curious.
Yeah, we'll be happy to provide that.
Thank you.
Where are we at in the process?
I'm sorry?
Where are we at in the process?
We didn't ask for, we've already asked for a motion.
I thought so, so
and a
it's
second,
open.
so now,
All
yeah.
right. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very very good, thank you, motion carried. Item 7 is action items, and it's the Head Start, Early Head Start Cost of Living Adjustments. And is Brandy? Yeah, oh, Brandy, yeah, there you are.
Different sides table today.
Yes.
Good morning. In January 2019, the Office of Head Start announced a 1.77% cost of living adjustment increase to programs. The Head Start Regional Office identified $92,705 as our program's total COLA amount to increase staff salaries, fringe benefits, and offset higher operating costs. Head Start will use the COLA funds as required in the guidance to increase staff wage rates, the pay scale rates, and building and maintenance funds. The program anticipates achieving the non-federal share through the Child Care Assistance Program, or CCAP, payments that we use for children and families in full-day services, utilizing full-day services. I recommend approval of the Head Start, Early Head Start cost of living adjustment funding increase.
Yes, Pat?
So the Head Start, basically the federal government comes up with that number for this area?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the Head Start, Early Head Start Cost of Living Adjustment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes, Patricia?
Just a question about, does COLA cover building and maintenance?
Yes, in the guidance it can.
It can.
Yes, but it can also include rent.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? There being none, motion carries. Item B is a budget amendment for Betty Murphy.
So this is in addition to the FY19 budget amendment, budget document. We applied for a competitive grant from the state of Illinois for federal pass-through funding for a workforce innovation pilot project, and we were fortunate enough to be a recipient of that. This is an 18-month research and pilot project, and this amendment is in the amount of $209,064. What this workforce amendment will do, this workforce innovation program will allow us to complete a labor shed analysis for the 5-county workforce area, which is designated by the U.S. Department of Labor to include Champaign, Piatt, Ford, Iroquois, and now Douglas County as of July 1st. We will also do a comprehensive business needs assessment and survey in this 5-county area, develop analytics. The intent of the innovation project is to create a business-driven workforce system so that the public workforce system responds to the needs of local businesses, both now and in the next decade. So this data will help us make those decisions and establish priorities for the workforce program. It will also help us create a regional plan for the workforce project and a robust data portal. So we will have data that's easily accessible to our participants, to businesses, and to anybody else that seeks analytics about our workforce, the characteristics and the quantity of our workforce. So we're excited about this project. It's a big innovation project, and we're very new at this. So the state is hoping that once we develop this model, this can be replicated throughout the state of Illinois in other workforce areas. So we're very excited about the opportunity. So I request approval of the amendment.
Okay. A question for you. Are the employers allowed to put information in to determine what type of jobs will be needed in the future?
So, yeah, so we're going to survey, as many employers as we can get to respond in collaboration with, economic development and chambers of commerce and others working in this 5-county area to determine what the labor force looks like, what do they need in terms of skill set, where is the talent pipeline, how do we create the skill set that they need for the next decade. And so until we have that data, we're not able to create a workforce system that's responsive to the businesses in our area and also remain competitive.
Okay.
All of that data will be pulled together. So, and Rita's team is, she has, and Rita, you can speak to the team members that you've included so far.
Yeah, we are in the process of hiring people, but we just hired an economic development planner that will be working with us on collecting the data and analyzing the data. We already have an economic development specialist that is working on this project too. We just hired a web development person that will be responsible for putting together the data portal for all the data that we are collecting through this process and to have all that data available to all the employers in the community. Because what we have found out with the work that we have done so far is that there is a lot of data, but in different places, and it's not consistent. And the idea is to bring all the data related to all these 5 counties in one website that anyone can go there and draw data that they need for whatever purposes they are looking at to use it. And the idea is to have this team working on developing the regional plan, developing the surveys, and collecting the data that will be an input to the regional plan, and also for the data portal that will be developing.
Yes, Diane?
I noticed one of the portions of this will be creation of a digital platform for housing data sets. What is that?
Well, the idea is that we'll be drawing data from several places, and one of the data sets that we want to look at it is housing and see what level of housing we have in our community, well, in the 5-county area, and the level of income that we have on those areas, that we can compare what is available, what people can pay, and what level of wages we are paying and all that.
It'll be by community or by
County.
just by an
By
account
county.
level? Okay.
Yes, it's difficult to find data, employment data, at a level that is below a county level. It's really difficult. Even for a county level data, it's difficult to get consistent data.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, Patricia?
My organization has a community youth services, and I will have 5 to 6 youth workers, and their charge is to do an assessment of all the resources in Champaign, Urbana, that provide services to youth. And so this assessment is going to be interesting because they will be doing interviews here at Regional Planning at some point because of all the services we provide. But I'm real interested in the workforce in terms of that age group. And I know that they're going to be doing assessment in terms of jobs and what that availability is for their age group. So, I'd like to kind of connect them to speak with you all about how they can go about collecting their data as well while they're out here doing their assessment. So hopefully we'll send them this way.
Okay.
And someone will be able to help them out.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Very good. Do I have a motion to approve the budget amendment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is the membership fees for fiscal year 20. Rita?
You have in your packet the memo for the RPC membership fees, but I just put a new page, front page, from the memo corrected. Thank you to Patrick for letting me know that we made a mistake on the population of Mohammed and the fees that they are paying. Then it's more, he's willing to pay more, which is great. Okay, let me go over the work plan, basically. Over the last year, we have been having a lot of conversation with the agency members who are represented at the RPC Technical Committee meetings regarding what work we have been doing over several years for them. And we got to the conclusion that because the RPC Technical Committee is a mix of agencies from the urban areas with agencies from the rural areas, it's sometimes difficult for the staff from those agencies working with us to tell us what kind of projects they want us to do for them, because there has to be an agreement between the rural and the urban agencies. Then, based on all those conversations, what we have done here is, if you look at the research and reports by request or proposed by RPC staff down the table, you will see that we have allocated now 700 hours to do that kind of work. And those 700 hours have been will be divided between a rural project and an urban project. They, based on all this discussion, we came to the agreement that it would be better if all the three agencies in the urban area, those are the City of Champaign, the City of Urbana, and the university, discuss what kind of project they want us to do for them. And then all the rural agencies, those are the Village of Rantoul, Village of Mohammed, Village of San Joe, and Champaign County, came to an agreement about what project we can do for them. And then we'll divide the 700 hours based on the scope of the project. And then hopefully this will work better for the agencies in this coming year, and we'll assess at the end of the year if that is working well and keep doing it, or we change direction there. That's the major change on the scope of services. Other than that, you can see that under data maintenance and analysis, we allocated a lot of hours because we'll be working on the census, getting prepared for the census 2020, and there is a lot of work that needs to be done by RPC staff. That's why there is a good chunk of hours allocated to that. We kept the 30 hours per agency that each agency can request any project that they want us to do for them for free, if I can say that, for free, without charging them any additional money beyond the membership. And we have been working on the regional water supply framework for the last 3 years. We'll keep working on the implementation on that. Community indicators is the website with all the data available to all the agencies that will keep up to date. That's the other allocation. They requested last year that we take charge of organizing all the activities related to Bike Month. We did that last year, and we continue to do this in the next coming year, hopefully. And under data requests, we allocated more hours this coming year than the current year, and the reason for that is that lately, the last 6 months, we have received a lot of data requests from several agencies in the community, which is great that now they know that we have a lot of data and that we can help them. Then that's why we increased the number of hours there. That's basically the scope of services, and as I said in the memo, there is no increase on membership fees for any of the agencies at this time. Any questions? Yes.
Full of questions this morning. So I've been getting emails recently about the census and how, which is critically important to all of us. So is RPC going to take the lead in our community? In terms
Yes,
of-
we did it last time and we are doing it this time.
Okay, so what do we need as cities to do?
We are in the process, and we discussed that with the RPC Technical Committee last week.
Okay.
We are in the process of creating a complete count committee. The complete count committee will be the committee responsible for reaching out to the community, educating the community in general about the census and making sure that people fill out the census questionnaire.
Okay.
We have requested from each of the member agencies, of RPC member agencies, to designate one staff member to be part of the complete count committee. But that's something that we already discussed at the RPC Technical Committee, and the staff at each agency is aware of that.
So I'm assuming it's one of our planners?
Yes.
Okay,
It could be anyone, but
that makes sense.
planning makes sense.
So we just need to create a communication plan around that from our end, I think is important.
Yes, and we'll be discussing all that, but we are in the process of, I'm sending someone to a training with the U.S. Census Bureau to have more information about the creation of complete count committees and all that. But right now, we are in the process of updating all the boundaries, jurisdictional boundaries that are going to be used to define the different geographies for the census data collection.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, I have a question for you, Rita.
Yes.
We have a representative from the U.S. Census Bureau coming to Rantoul on Monday of next week. His name is Derek Brook out of Chicago. Should the RPC be present
If
at
you
that
want me to
meeting?
be there, I can be there.
I think so.
Okay.
The meeting's at 10 o'clock
10 o'clock at the village.
at the Village, and Ken Turner will be
I'll talk to Ken.
meeting with this gentleman.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the proposed membership?
I'm full of questions too this
All
morning.
right.
Just for Rita, forgive my ignorance on this, but is regional planning involved with the Garden Hills project?
Which one?
Well, I know it's been postponed. They were pretty eager to get started, but I think they've delayed it. The one out near Hedge Road, I guess it's a water.
The infrastructure of that project? My understanding is that the lead agency for that project is the city of Champaign. I know that RPC is contributing with, working with Amber on providing some lighting and providing all that, but I'm not really involved. Dalitso is more involved than me.
Yeah, the infrastructure, that's pretty much the city of Champaign. The initiative that we're involved with in Garden Hills has to do with providing energy efficiency to the homes of Garden Hills. So we have partnered with the city of Champaign. They will be dealing with the safety side. So one of the things they'll be doing using their CDBG funds will be to replace some of the windows, because my understanding is many of the homes do not have egress windows. So the city will be doing that portion of it. We'll be coming in to those homes, doing an assessment, and then doing some retrofitting, either replacing furnaces, doing more insulation so that those households can save on their utilities. Down the road, I think phase 2 of that initiative will be to provide yard lights. As you know, Garden Hills does not have street lights, and one of the things we had initially thought we would do with street lights in partnership with Ameren, but my understanding is because of the mature trees that are in the neighborhood, it wouldn't be as effective to have streetlights, and so yard lights is the approach that I think we've discussed with the city of Champaign. So we are in partnership with the Neighborhood Services Division of the city, and so that project is being launched as we speak.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Is that a part of the membership services?
No, so these are resources that we got from Ameren directly. It's a partnership that RPC has established with Ameren. So we're doing quite a bit with that utility company. With Rita's division, we're doing some data tracking for Ameren across the entire territory. But we also discussed with them bringing in some resources to focus on a specific neighborhood. And we proposed Garden Hills as one of those, as a pilot. Eventually, we want to do that in other parts of our service area.
Well, again, I'm really happy to hear that because I've conducted meetings with those neighbors, and one of the things that they expressed very loudly was their concern for lighting. So I'm very happy to hear that there is some movement and something going on with that. It's a safety concern for those residents, and so that can't come fast enough for them. So I'm very happy to hear that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Do I have a motion to approve the proposed membership fees for fiscal year 20, July 21st of 2019 through June 30th, 2020?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Board. Number 8 is the Head Start, Early Head Start. Brenda?
In your packet, there is a Head Start, Early Head Start Management Report for December 2018. I do want to point out some highlights. We are and continue to be at 100% enrollment for Head Start and Early Head Start throughout the program. We currently have 238 children on the wait list. To break that down, we have 140 infants and toddlers on the wait list and 98 preschool age children on the wait list. We've also, from September to now, we have served 48 homeless families and 50, that includes 50 children. 9 of those families who have identified themselves as homeless, 9 have acquired housing. So that number keeps jumping up. And we will continue to work with those families to find housing in the area. That is all I have for right now. If you have any questions.
I just wanted to commend Brandy and her team in maintaining full enrollment since we started operating the program this fiscal year in September. Many of the programs, not just in Illinois but across the country, are struggling in maintaining their enrollment numbers because of, either competing with other providers in the area, such as school districts. But I think it's commendable that our team has been able to maintain full enrollment, the last few months. So.
Thanks, Dylan.
Randy, I wanted to personally thank you also and RPC for the excellent performance you showed in Rantoul with Head Start and the improvements that were made to that facility up there.
Thank you. Thank you
Very much appreciated. Anyone else?
You're doing a good job. I think I met several of those people waiting. So,
Thank
good
you,
job.
Ms. Green.
You're doing a good
All
job.
right, very good.
You had some big shoes to fill. You're filling them pretty good.
Do I have a motion to accept and place on file the Head Start, Early Head Start management reports, including financials and service area reports for January 2019?
So, second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, motion carried. Next on the agenda is item 9, program division updates. Bev?
Sure. So we're working right now to identify some strategic roles, responsibilities, and staffing plan for an expanded independent service coordination area, which will include 13 counties. We'll be bringing a budget amendment to this board to accommodate that, which will begin July 1st. But in the meantime, we received this competitive award, and we need to figure out how to expand into this 13-county area and how that staffing matrix should look. We're also beginning preliminary work with Baker Tilly of Oak Brook, who, those are the independent auditors that the Champaign County Board has chosen. So they're beginning preliminary work at the RPC since we're a big portion of that audit, the single audit as well as the federal compliance portion. We're working on redeveloping all of the workforce governing documents for the CEOs of each of the respective counties to review. That'll happen in March, and that'll become part of this newly aligned workforce plan. The state of Illinois will be here to facilitate that training and that process, so that'll happen in mid-March. And finally, we're working very hard to identify facilities in Champaign-Urbana to accommodate the receipt of early Head Start expansion funding. This is permanent funding, nearly $2 million, and we need to accommodate classrooms for up to 80 infants and toddlers, and so that's a challenging process for us, but we're
Yes.
looking at a variety of options to identify classroom space.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Is Becky here?
Becky is not here.
Okay. Does anyone do have Becky's report for Human Resources?
It's just included in the packet.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Lisa?
No report.
Okay, no report. And Rita?
Okay, good morning again. I was going to talk about the census, but I already talked about the census. At this time, the staff is working hard on finalizing the infra grant application for the Curtis Road overpass for resubmission as an infra grant is due next week. We are working with the Village of Savoy and with the consultant hired by the Village of Savoy to put together the whole grant. The good news is that the benefit cost analysis at this time is better than the previous time. The previous time was 1.1, right now is 1.56, which is great. And we were able to have one of the witnesses of the application in the previous round was that they were asking for innovation elements of the grant, and at that time, because we did it so quickly, we couldn't include a lot of that. At this time, we are partnering with the University of Illinois because now they are installing a new solar farm on the border of the project. Then the street lights on that segment of the project will be powered by the solar farm, which is a really good highlight in terms of innovation for the project. And hopefully we'll get it at this time. We'll see. We'll see. We also have been working hard on the long-range transportation plan. At this time, staff is working on developing several different scenarios. We had our meeting with the working group for the long-range transportation plan on developing scenarios, and right now the staff is testing several scenarios to bring to the table to discuss with the members of the group to see how we'll be moving forward with respect to the different scenarios that we have discussed already. I just came back last week from the beer exchange that I was invited to attend in Boston. It was a good experience. We have representation, or we have people attending that peer exchange workshop from several places, people from Minnesota DOT, people from South Carolina DOT, Vermont DOT, the MPO in Boston, the MPO in Buffalo, the MPO in Michigan, and I was one of the presenters at the workshop. And the other piece of good news, not yet, but hopefully, is that they recommended the Federal Highway Administration every 2 years call for projects that have received federal funding to be submitted for a national award. And at that meeting, they asked me to submit the Curtis Road Corridor project for the national award. Then let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. They just suggested that to me. Then we are working on that because the application is due next week too. And other than that, we have been busy with the census and studying the WIOA grant that we just received funding for. Any questions? Okay.
KRT study getting underway this
I
year.
think that we're going to ask about it.
I'm aiming for a national award for that.
I just talked to Kirchhoff Weiler for the city of Urbana, and he told me that it was decided before Bill Gray left that the lead agency in that project is the Urbana Park District, not the city of Urbana. Then I'll be meeting with Tim Bartlett next week to discuss the scope and the members of the committee and setting up regular meetings and all that, but we are starting next week.
Very exciting.
Mhm.
Any further questions before I call for the vote? Dick?
I just want to thank Rita and her staff for the excellent work that they've done on the infra grant, both last year and this year. Last year was a rush job, and we felt that we had a pretty good application, and indications back to us at the time were that it was a good application, but when it got out there, it fell apart. Not the grant, but the process kind of fell apart. We think that this, after we had the briefing afterwards, we learned an awful lot, and as a result of that, we think that the grant this time is much better and has a much better chance if they do it the correct way out there. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do I have a motion to accept and place on file the 4 division updates for fiscal, human resources, community service, and planning and community development?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10 is the CEO management report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is indeed an exciting time for RPC, probably not as exciting for the staff, but certainly is exciting for me with all the growth and expansion that we're experiencing in all of our divisions. The early childhood division, the community services division, and our planning and community development division are all experiencing some tremendous growth, which, as I've indicated in past meetings, does put us in a challenging position to think about our structure, which is something we're working on right now to ensure that our structure is responsive to the growth needs that we're experiencing in all of our various divisions. And so we're working through all of that. As Betty indicated, part of that growth requires of us to look at facilities because we're going to need to accommodate some of this additional programming in some new facilities. And so we're looking at all of that, and hopefully we'll be able to accommodate all of our growth here in the next few months. The other thing I wanted to share with you, just as an informational item at this point, and we will be coming back once these discussions have reached to a point where we need to come to an agreement. For the last few months, we have been in discussions with the Champaign Park District to be part of the Martin Center development, which my understanding is that construction of that should commence in 2020. Our discussions have been for us to have a Head Start, an early Head Start classrooms to be part of the Martin Center. They will be discussing that here in the next few weeks, and so at the appropriate time, we will be bringing that back to the commissioners once we have come to some agreement with the Park District on how that's going to look like. So that's an exciting thing for us. We believe that if this does happen, could be a national model as far as the collaboration between county, Park District, and the various partners that will be part of the Martin Center. So we're hopeful that this will be something that will materialize and will help us to serve particularly that's the area where most of our families are, residing, that we serve in our Head Start program. And so more to come on that. The other things that I wanted to share with you is that we are obviously going to be paying close attention to both the state and the federal budget. The governor just did his budget address, I believe, this week. And so as the General Assembly looks at that, we will be paying very close attention to funding that we receive from the state. One thing to note is that I believe the Pritzker administration is really interested in increasing the resources available for early childhood education by about $90 million. And so we do receive some of those funds through our Head Start program. So there may be some opportunities there for us to expand services, given that we all, not only us, but even the school districts, have waiting lists for families to be served. But at the same time, I think we also want to be mindful of not having those resources impact, particularly the federal funds that we receive to provide Head Start services. So we'll be paying very close attention to that. I know we've been part of some of the discussions on a statewide level with other providers, and providing some advice to the new administration on early childhood education and the funding that they're proposing to put in place. The last item I wanted to report on, and I think there was an email I sent out to most of the member agencies, and that is an initiative that we have been working on but haven't really launched, and that's establishing a community data portal that will really sort of be a collaboration with all the units of government that are part of our organization. And so at the next meeting, we will have a presentation on what that is going to look like. And I know that I've already heard from some of I've heard from Urbana, and I think I've heard from the city of Champaign. And so we will probably have meetings with you individually before that presentation, so that all of the technical questions that folks might have, can be addressed within those meetings. But the idea is not to necessarily replace any existing websites, but to have a central point of entry that can, if someone wants to access information from the city of Urbana, they could do that directly with Urbana, or they could do that through this community data portal. This is something that was shared with me when I first started, the need for RPC to be fully the central depository for data for the community that we serve. So we'll be presenting on that hopefully at the next meeting.
Very good, thank you. Is there any old business?
Why are you looking at me? No.
Just wondering. Is there any new business? All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. All in favor? All right, very good. Those opposed? Thank you, Gordon.